I call the public, I call the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting for Wednesday, January 10th, 2024 to order at 6:41. We will call Mr. Neela to, as our alternate, to go ahead and sit in place of Mr. Myers. Public comments, non-agenda items, public comments, white cards comment will be taken from the audience on non-agenda related item topics for the length of time not to exceed 3 minutes per person. Agenda items, public comment, yellow cards, comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda items and agenda items, combined for a length of time not to exceed 5 minutes total per person, all items, except for public hearings. Comments on public hearing items must be made when the items come before the commission and not to exceed 2 minutes per person. Non-action or discussion may be taken by the commission during public comments on non-agenda items. At this time, I don't have any non-agenda items, so I will ask um, at this time on the public hearing and the agenda items, commissioners 3 and 9 will be pulled. We won't. They'll be pulled for next meeting. And I'm also going to ask that we go ahead and this being the new year, we go ahead and start with we're going to move the regular agenda item 5 and 6 to the front. What that is it's conducting a discussion and possible action to appoint a planning and zoning commission chairperson to serve a year of one term.
All right. So, as it says, the chairperson and vice chair, they're only for 1 year terms. So, the beginning of each year, we reappoint someone. So, if anyone would like to make nominations and discuss it, you're free to do that.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Pius for the Planning and Zoning Commission chairperson.
I second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Chavis and a second by Commissioner Ms. Leonard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Moving on to agenda item number 6, consideration and discussion and possible action items to appoint a planning and zoning commission vice chair to serve a 1 year term.
I move that we nominate Commissioner Chavis to be the vice chair.
I second. I have a motion by Commissioner Leonard, a second by Commissioner Leland. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Now we can get back to the meeting now. Agenda item number 1, conduct a public hearing on rezoning applications for the domain development 1 lot on 15.42 acres, more or less, and being located at 12200 Tower Road Maynard, Texas, from NA-1 light industrial to MF-2 multifamily-25. Do we believe we have a Mr. David? I don't want to mess up your last name, sir. All right. One second.
Test. We have a packet of the presentation that is being handed out right now. Also in that folder is a couple memos we put together on some of the road and traffic type issues, and also drainage and flooding type issues on the road that we figured may come up. So I think the agenda item was brought. We are Dominium, and we are proposing an apartment development on Tower Road. And this is our planning and zoning meeting to discuss our project. This being the first time we're meeting with planning and zoning, we wanted to provide some slides on the company and kind of describe who we are and what our involvements are throughout the state of Texas and also nationally. So this first slide here is just an overview. Dominium was founded in 1972. We've been in business for over 50 years. We're the second largest developer of workforce or affordable housing, which is housing that's primarily developed with an income restriction. So all of the units at our property would be income restricted at 60% or less of area median income, which is $70,000 for a family of four. The city has set out some goals through their council and recently formed a public facility corporation to promote partnerships with private developers such as ourselves to bring this housing with the hope of keeping Maynard's workforce local and sort of housing more of the residents and people who work in Maynard in the city. That's partially what brings us here today. We have over 220 properties nationwide. We're in 19 different states. We have 4 different regional offices. So myself and the team today, we're based in Dallas. We have about 50 people in that office, and we made the trip down. We currently own and manage about 38,000 units, and we're on track to eclipse about 40,000 units by 2025. So we're a large apartment owner and manager nationally. This is a graphical representation of some of the states we're involved in, and some of our different involvements. So we were originally founded in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Our largest unit count is there, 9,200 units. But Texas is our second biggest state. We have 45 properties and over 8,400 units. Between 2,000 and 3,000 of those are, spread between Dallas and Austin and the other kind of major metros. Also worth pointing on this slide is Dominium is the long-term owner of real estate. So these properties owned for, these are current properties that we currently own. But when we sell a property, it's about an ownership of 18 years. And in a state like Texas, in a new build type of product, it gets closer to about 30 years. And we're going to manage the property for that whole period of time. So we take a long-term view on ownership and kind of our residents and some of the amenities we provide in construction and architecture and design quality that we'll get into on later slides. Also, we're vertically integrated. So we have a development staff. We also have construction and architecture, and then we also have property management. So we'll manage the whole process from today until when we sell the property in 30 years from now. And this is meant to highlight some of our charitable efforts. The primary way we give back to the community is through our foundation, and then is through our foundation. And then the primary way that we give back within that is through our scholarship program. We give scholarships to residents that live in our property. It's about $5,000 per semester, and you can apply multiple times. And since 2020, we've given nearly $5 million in scholarships and about $8 million through our foundation. This is an overview of the development and getting more into the specifics of the development. The first slide here is something I covered briefly in my intro. So in February, the Manor City Council passed a resolution to support housing, and they added a few goals there. One is to build a collaborative public and private partnership. Dominion is, as outlined in the first slide, the second largest developer in this class, and we really view ourselves as an expert in the field and someone with a stellar track record and really being second to none. Secondly is building a housing product that's needed in the community. So currently, and we've mapped this out, Manor people who work in Manor are often unable to live in Manor due to lack of affordable housing. And there's many things that are advertised as affordable, but our product truly comes below the market rent levels, and we'll show some of those later. But that's one of the goals that we're look to address too. And it's also housing professional people and people who earn kind of a fixed wage that's not, middle class or upper middle class, but it's a moderate income, and they need somewhere to live that's not going to break the bank. We've discussed this project a couple different times with the city council, and we're proposing to work hand in hand with them to bring a project to Manor that is equal quality or better quality, better managed, owned long term. Just at an affordable rent level. And then these are some of the milestones we've had so far. So we value, public input and different people's input in our development we're proposing. So in September, we had an introductory meeting with the city council. In early October, we had another meeting. As part of applying for our financing, we needed them to pass a resolution. So we did that. And then the same thing occurred twice in November. There was another resolution we needed, and we met twice, in total 4 meetings with the council in discussion of our project and the proposed partnership with the Public Facilities Corporation. And then in anticipation of this meeting and in anticipation of wanting to share different feedback with you and showing that we've gotten feedback from the community and how we're addressing it, we had an open house in December. And that there was probably about 20 total people who attended. 10 of them were city staff or city officials, and then another 5 to 10 were residents or different people in the community. And we heard their feedback and have made updates to our plan that I'll show you. Today's our planning and zoning meeting, and then as you know, there's 2 subsequent city council meetings. This is the location of our site. It's north of 290 off Tower Road. I believe this project was presented to you last year, or a little over a year ago, so you might be familiar with the location. These are more details on the unit types, income restrictions, and rents, so you can see them on their screen there. The other thing worth highlighting is the city's set a goal for affordable housing. Our units, guaranteed, required by law, will be affordable for 30 years. At these rent levels, and they increase based on incomes and inflation every year, but that's what they would start at. And then, as you can see, for a 4-person family, it'd be a wage of $70,000. So we're truly housing working class residents and working class people. This is our concept site plan. It's still very preliminary and kind of in the early details of what we're doing. It's multiple garden style buildings. There's a clubhouse and kind of an amenity center and an amenity area behind it. We tried the site's a little tight. There's a pond and a stream that run through it that kind of limit what we can do, but we were trying to provide for a good buffer from the single family adjacency, and then also keep our units away from the industrial, because we don't really want our residents looking at that. So it's a tough site and it's tight. But this is our first, we've iterated a few times, but it's kind of preliminary pass at it. More details on the zoning here. So the site is currently zoned for industrial use. The development, in our opinion, would provide a buffer from an intense industrial use to a less intense residential use to the east and north of us. It's worth noting that the comp plan for this area is mixed density neighborhoods. Something that falls under that is MF2. Under MF2, we would be entitled to build up to 386 units, but we're only proposing 324. Screening and buffering. I want to cover the traffic last because that's obviously one of the major points here. Screening and buffering. We're providing an 80-foot setback next to the single family residential. Only 25-foot next to the industrial. But that being said, we are exceeding, and we can share this with you at a later point in time, but we're exceeding landscaping requirements, and we're also putting in a 6-foot concrete panel type fence basically on all sides of the property except on the frontage, which I need to go back and look at the code, but I think it exceeds the code, or it's close to exceeding the code. So we take that seriously. And then lastly, on the traffic, so obviously, traffic is a big concern here, and I think our engineer will speak to it later on. But there's 3 main improvements we're making to the traffic situation based on the feedback we've gotten from the city council and at the open house. We're gonna install, and we're still working on the details of how we're gonna put the money together for this, but we're gonna install a traffic light at the intersection of FM 973 and Tower Road. We're also gonna widen the road in front of our site, in front of Tower Road. The issue there is the city only controls the portion of the road that's in front of Tower Road. Everything else is the county road. The county permitting process is almost a 12-month permitting process, which doesn't align with if we wanted to improve more of the road. So we're kind of relegated to just the portion in front of our site. And then the other thing we're going to install a turn lane there and widen the portion in front of our site. And then the other thing we're going to do too is we're going to move the stop sign from Tower Road to the intersection of Suncrest, where it butts up to Tower Road. And our engineer will share some data on that as far as what the current congestion is, and then what it'll be after we make the improvements. But there's going to be a big improvement. And these are just renderings. One thing worth mentioning, we didn't have time to update the renderings. So it's showing, for example, 25-foot setback on the eastern, but it's going to be an 80-foot setback, which I think you saw on our site plan, required by code. And then this is kind of a comparison of rendering for property we've constructed. This property is located about 3 or 4 miles from here at the intersection of Palmer Lane and 290. It's called Crossroad Commons. It has a Manor address, but it's in the Austin ETJ. This is the rendering, and then this is the actual picture. And you could drive by, it's right by the highway. More details on the amenities. Again, we pride ourselves in providing an amenity package that's indistinguishable or better than market rate housing. So in the units, private balcony, full-size washer and dryer, stainless steel appliance package, hard surface countertops, meaning either granite or quartz countertops, 9-foot ceilings, walk-in closets, luxury vinyl plank flooring. Also in the community amenities, clubhouse, fitness center, business center. We'll have an outdoor kind of amenity area with grill areas, picnic areas, a pool, an outdoor game area. There was 2 points of feedback we got from the council. One is they wanted more amenities that were targeted at teenagers and school-age students. So what we're doing there and what we're planning to do there is we're going to install kind of like a game and amenity area that's kind of dedicated towards them. One was directed at like ping pong was one, and chess and checkers was another one. The big thing we're doing is we're going to have a learning center in the clubhouse, and we're going to provide tutoring services for free Monday through Friday, 3 hours a week, or 3 hours a day, so 15 hours a week. And then these are pictures of what it looks like. This is our Crossroad Commons development, just off Palmer Lane. And these are more details on the resident services we provide. Again, these are free of charge to the residents. Typically, financial literacy, credit counseling, health type things. We also try to partner with like law enforcement, first responders, schools. We're having some ongoing dialogue with the school district and about that. So. And then these are more slides on kind of just the residents and the rent savings. When you say affordable housing and you say there's an income restriction, it brings, people have perceptions about what that means. So we like to try to humanize our residents. This is a 2-bedroom unit. This is a single mother example, $52,000 a year. They would qualify to live in a 2-bedroom apartment unit. And then this is for a 4-bedroom unit, and this is a two income household. And we've had conversations with the school district about how a lot of their more service type jobs fit into our income range, and we're looking to make accommodations to house them at our property. Things we have discussed, or we are going to discuss, we're working on getting back in contact with them. But we've discussed waiving application fees, having a pre-leasing meeting with them to make everyone aware of the development, be able to move into our development, and also partnering with them on some of the tutoring services I had mentioned earlier. And then these are points we like to make, just kind of as like a high level point about the type of product we're proposing. This is really economic development in a lot of ways. So here you can see how it impacts residents on an individual level. There's varying amounts of savings across the 2, 3, and 4 bedroom sizes. On average, our residents stay 4 to 5 years, and one of the top 3 reasons they move out is to purchase a home. And you can see how that can amount to a down payment on a home over time. But the other way in which this is a benefit in our experience is if you extrapolate all the rent savings across the whole property across 15 years, because that's kind of how the time increment we look at these in. There's a rent savings of $22.8 million, which often gets spent at local businesses and helps stimulate the economy and stimulate the tax base and make the schools better and make Maine a more desirable place to live in and increase property values. And, you know, we're very involved in this space and we have evidence and information on that that we're happy to share. So. And then just more about the outreach and kind of just putting a bow on the improvements we're proposing based on the feedback we've gotten. These are different groups we've met with. We met with the ISD, had an intro meeting with them. We've kind of had informal discussion with the police department so far, the chief. We've met with a couple different churches, a couple different nonprofit groups that are local to the area. And then we had our open house where we got to hear more from some of the residents who live in the area. And these were the commonly cited concerns. So traffic, flooding, and then schools and the children. So for the traffic, center turn lane, we're widening the road in front of our site. We're going to relocate the stop sign from Tower Road onto Suncrest. And we're going to reconfigure the intersection to install a traffic light at the intersection of Suncrest and 973. Flooding was another one that was brought up. So currently there's a very undersized, so there's the Stonewater subdivision north of us, and then water kind of is conveyed through their detention pond that's right north of our property and then through our property, and then it goes onto the road. And a lot of the concerns about that are, you know, the flooding, and it's going to get worse basically. So we looked into it with our engineer. We determined there's currently a 24-inch pipe, which is very undersized. We're planning on installing some box culverts, 4 of them, 3x6. And currently it's flooding in a very minor rainfall. And we anticipate with the box culverts that any, like what's classified as a 2-year rain event, which has a 50% chance of happening each year, would be kept under the road. So there would be, the regular flooding wouldn't occur anymore. And then the schools and children covered a lot of this, but adding the outdoor game area, adding the after school learning center, homework and tutoring services Monday through Friday, 15 hours a week. And then we're looking to pin down the details of our partnership with the school district. But those are the ones that come to mind in the bullet points there. And our contact information is on the slide. You can feel free to reach out to us anytime. I think these are your. Happy to answer any questions.
Scott, do we ask questions now or later?
You can ask any questions now. Yes.
I think I'll start. When you talk about the ISDs, I notice you say ISDs, but there is a school that's probably 100 yards away from y'all that is not a part of the ISD. Have we talked to them yet?
No, we have not talked to the charter school to date.
And I'm sorry, my last question. I know you guys want to fix Tower Road and Suncrest, but I heard you guys say you live in Dallas, so you're not here at 7 o'clock in the morning when that road goes from 973 all the way back to 973. Mm-hmm. How do we plan to fix that?
Ben, do you want to answer? You're getting to technical, like engineering details. I prefer to have our engineer answer.
Just state your name when you.
Yeah, Ben Green. I'm with Kimley Horn. I'm the project engineer on this. I guess first off, David, thanks for that presentation. I think what's important here is hopefully it's clear Dominion's looking for long-term solutions as they're going to build and hold this property. Unlike I think what's typical of most developers where they'll do the bare minimum, I think they're looking for solutions that are going to be effective and impact not just their development, but the community. So when we were brought on this project, we were tasked with looking at a few of the major problems that are the current neighbors and communities experiencing in this area. And you pointed out traffic and then drainage, which I'd be happy to get to as well. So prior to this meeting, David was hoping to have some traffic information that we could present. So they kicked us off about a month and a half ago to do a traffic impact analysis for the site. And what we have in front of us is understanding what the current traffic conditions look like. It sounds like you're very familiar with it. There's pretty much two major critical points as you travel, west along Tower Road. You have the stop sign at Suncrest, and then you have the intersection 973. Per our analysis, at peak traffic, there's a 4-minute delay at the stop sign at Suncrest and a 23-minute delay at the intersection of 973, creating a total of 27 minutes. You might be waiting to turn on 973 to go south. And so again, with their mindset when they develop, they're going to be managing this community and they want to solve this problem for their residents as well. So part of our mitigation solutions that we're proposing are, as we mentioned, reconfiguring the intersection at Suncrest because most of the traffic is going east and west. So there's no reason to have Suncrest be the major thoroughfare with no stop condition. It's all happening on Tower Road. So by reconfiguring where that stop sign is, allowing the Tower Road to just be the thoroughfare, we eliminate that 4-minute delay automatically. And so now we still have to deal with the 23-minute delay at 973. And as David mentioned, part of the TI mitigation would be ultimately contributing to a signal at the intersection. And what that would do is reduce the delay from 23 minutes to 3 minutes at that signal, almost eliminating your entire, conflict of a 27-minute delay to 3 minutes total.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Commissioner Sermo. So just to add on to Commissioner Pies, it's we have not just that charter school, but we have 2 additional ISD schools that are in that area. So thinking about the population and how many students are going to be transported from their home to their schools around the same time because they are all elementary schools. Right. And so for elementary schools, they are all arriving at the same time. Am I correct? Yes. Okay. And then the other thing too is that where Suncrest is, yes, there's a stop sign there. And yes, you will sit there for about not 27 minutes, but about 45 minutes sometimes. But there's also and somebody tell me if I'm wrong, but before you get to that stop sign, you might have to wait because there's coming from the other direction, you can either turn right or you can go straight. So that is also causing a big problem as well too. And I will say that it is because I almost got in a car accident coming here. And not only that, but it's even going farther down because there's only one road. Right.
Yeah.
So not only are we thinking about that additional area where cars can either turn right or they can go straight. But we're also thinking about how there's one road right there. So yes, I do understand how the 4 minutes, it can go ahead and decrease. But at the same time, we only have one road and students are being transported at the same time.
Yeah.
And not only that, but there's much more traffic when they're being picked up. And to add on to that, we have buses in that area too, which causes a lot more traffic as well too.
Yeah. I think what's what's evident from everything that's been said, there's major traffic issues there right now, even without this development. Most people are concerned when a new development brings new people that the problem gets worse. What I think we want to make clear is the solutions we're bringing with this project are going to make the condition better. It may not solve it entirely, but just through this analysis, even reduce it. 30 minutes just to get to 973 is outrageous. So even getting that to under 10 minutes, I'm sure would be a huge impact to everyone's day, morning and evening, coming and going from work. So
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So we do include what our development would include to this, queue of cars, traveling down Tower Road. Um, but yeah, all valid points. I know when I'm not actually the traffic engineer who prepared the study, but they do analyze peak morning, peak afternoon, all the major time events where people are going from work, going to school, coming home from work, coming home from school. So that's all part of this. Our TIA will be formally submitted with our site development application to the city, and that would be a public application that the community and you as well would be able to see kind of analysis and what we're assuming the condition is and what we're doing to mitigate for it.
And one thing, I mean, you guys can fix Tower Road and Suncrest, but I think we all know the bigger problem is 973, and that's out of y'all's guys' control. So
Yeah.
And I think it's good to notate as well too that we might have some walkers. And when you do have walkers, especially if this property is going to be very close to the charter schools, and then there's also those two elementary schools. When you do have walkers, it causes more traffic as well too because cars have to wait.
Absolutely.
Right. So I think we have to keep that in mind as well too, because I'm looking at this and I'm seeing it's going to be 324 units. But on top of that, right, like there's going to be 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms. We already have an apartment complex that's there. And then once again, we have those 3 elementary schools at the same time. So understanding that we might have walkers because it is so close, we need to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. And with the traffic light, there'd be an opportunity to provide a pedestrian crossway there, not to add an additional stop condition along Tower Road. But that is something we'll explore and come back to you with, an opportunity to, solve that.
And one more thing too,
Yeah.
in regards to that, I know the light across from the high school hasn't been activated yet, but there's a light there.
Yeah.
Is it Monarch or the subdivision that's going to create Tenahero that's going to go across? So there will be a light there, and then you all's light. So not only the addition of the light, but the timing of those lights will also be very important.
Absolutely. And great point. When new lights get installed, they actually do a study on how to model the timing to make the most efficient traffic flow. So with our project, we'll help install this new light, and then we might be part of that reprogramming effort to just make sure everything's in sync. We're not, green light and you're stopping at the very next light a couple hundred yards down the road.
What was the timing of your TIA?
As far as the total delay time, or
No, the timing of the actual survey.
So we were kicked off early December, I believe, on it. So within the last month and a half, it's not fully complete. It's our initial analysis. So the formal TIA will be prepared and submitted with the application. I do know when they take trips, they can't do it over like winter break or summertime. So they are very specific on when they have to take those the trip counts to understand the true condition out there.
What those trip dates are?
We can get that for you, or Andy.
can I have you walk up and state your name?
Yeah, sorry.
Andy Graham with Kimley Horn Associates. I believe the trip counts were taken December 7th or sometime in early December.
Okay. And then what percentage of impervious cover did you have shift with the planning there? Because, I mean, it's all, no hard surface there. And so just adding the covers there, saying that it's going to eliminate the flooding. Kind of explain that decision there.
Absolutely. So traffic, everyone's aware of that issue. Maybe a less known fact, unless you live right there, is the flooding on the street of Tower Road. What we've analyzed is that 24-inch existing culvert that goes under Tower Road is severely undersized. It was probably placed there a very long time ago with no true engineering to determine what needed to be there. So per our analysis, most rain events, we are assuming that water is building up behind the road and eventually overtopping Tower Road. So for those of you that live in the area, I'm not sure if that's accurate, but I'm wondering if there's been a time where you've seen water overtopping the road, which creates an unsafe condition. part of our project, even if that wasn't a issue at this point, part of our development is to ensure that we do not send more runoff downstream than what was there in the existing condition. So regardless of Tower Road, when we develop, we have to prove up to the city engineer that our development is detaining and mitigating for the increase in impervious cover, which will speed up water typically and have more amount of volume runoff. We have to mitigate for that. So not only are we going to do that, we're also going to work to solve the Tower Road solution, which wouldn't necessarily be required by our project. It is something we are voluntarily doing. Typically, what we'd be required to do is at our property line, before we send water off the property line, we have to maintain existing condition flows. Tower Road's beyond our property line. But again, as Dominion wants to be partners to the community and they know their residents are going to be living there and dealing with the same issues that Manor is dealing with, they don't want a flooded road in an unsafe condition as well. So our solution would be to install some larger box culverts to allow that flow to, the water is going to go downstream regardless, but whether it's going over top the road or under the road is what we're trying to seek. So when it's under the road, it's a safe condition. People would drive across it. And right now we don't think it's, a very safe condition.
I just wanted to say a couple things. So first, thank you for all of this detail. I sent the commissioners some recommendations of things that we wanted to see from applicants, and you did most of them without us having to ask you. So we appreciate knowing the average price, the number of units, all of the things. I also think you did a town hall. You did your diligence with the community and the surrounding neighbors as well. So appreciate that. Also, I do think a light at the Suncrest in 973, we're going to need that anyway. So I think that's really good that you're willing to do that, as well as the investing in the tutoring of kids, which I've never seen one single, I've been on this commission for a while, never seen one single place offer that. And also just affordable housing. Section 8, I'm assuming, are you guys considered Section 8 or?
It's Section 42, so the income restrictions are a little different. It's 60% AMI. Section 8 is 30% AMI. You could still live in the property with a Section 8 voucher, but the units aren't designated Section 8. The residents pay the rent. The rent isn't subsidized. So, anyways.
Okay. And then the other question I've had is, I know we've had some issues with cars being broken into, and crime has increased in the area. We don't have as robust of a police force as I wish we did. And sometimes they take a little bit of time to answer calls and stuff like that. So I think it's good that you have a perimeter around your area. Are you going to have a gate?
Right now, we're not planning for a gate.
I would suggest that or like enclosed garages. Will you have enclosed garages so people can park their cars in garages?
No garages right now.
It would probably be worth looking into that, because we've had a spattering of people getting their car windshields broken, cars broken into, and other things like that pretty recently, in the last 6 months or so. So especially, any new development like this where it's going to have a lot of people in a small place, you should really probably think about having an entry gate and or garages.
Thank you.
I have a last question, and I don't want to tell you guys time up, and I know we have a lot more to go. I hear you guys keep saying community, and you want to fix the road to help the community. How much have you involved your neighbors? Because I know, being here for a while, there's a couple homes that have been there for a good while. What are we doing to work with them on making sure they're okay?
So we did the open house, which I think we discussed. We sent out a notification letter for that in advance of the notification letter for the planning and zoning going out. Additionally, assuming we get the approvals and we continue down the road, there will need to be a development agreement due to the timing of our financing and everything happening. we need concurrent reviews on the plat and permit. So there'll be a development agreement that's, again, a public process that the city will be doing a public process, and individuals will be invited to. Also, with the housing going through the city's PFC, there's a handful of other different public hearings that occur for that too. So our intent is to encourage resident participation throughout the process and hear their concerns. This is the first of a lot of different meetings we'd be having on the project.
Is the property at the Farmer and 290, is that an income restricted property as well?
Yes.
If I may, just got a quick question about the, I guess the email from January 2nd about the metal pipe storm drain.
Okay.
So that one. So correct me if I'm wrong on this part. So that pipe is going from one side of tower to the other side.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
It's a 24-inch pipe, passes water under Tower Road.
And the goal is to. And so with these, the boxes that you're gonna be putting in, so they're gonna be going underneath from one side to the other, or are they like positioned just halfway through, or how's that looking?
Yeah, we're maintaining the pathway of the water. So where the water comes to the road and exits the road, we'll maintain that condition. Right now, the pipe's just too small to keep that water under the road, so it's actually overtopping it. So we'll replace the 24-inch pipe with the larger culverts, but still connect point A and point B.
All right. Any more questions, commissioners?
I move to close the public hearing for agenda item number 1.
Hold on, Scott. So since they did a slideshow, now we continue with the public comments. Is that correct? So we don't close it yet.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Anyone else who signed up with concern reports.
Don't worry.
No, you're allowed.
I saw you, Ms. Martinez. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to let the commissioners know, there are 4 other gentlemen that have not wished to speak, but show their support. We do have one more, Miss Denise Martinez.
Oh, sure, my life, I tell you. I'm Denise Martinez. I live at 12200 Tower Road with my husband for the last 25 years, and we are the owners of 12200 Tower Road. We do not want our property rezoned to be what they're doing. So they have the address wrong. So I hope you deny it on that grounds. Also, I'm concerned that they're going to go ahead and put more water down to our downstream neighbors by putting in a bigger pipe. They're not allowed to add more water, I thought, downstream. They have to encompass what they have, is the way I understood it. So I'm concerned about that. Y'all are fully aware of the traffic on Tower. You can't get out of my gate in the morning because it's past us. So there's only one entrance onto their property. And so, they could only get out through the subdivision or something and go a different direction. That would be ideal. I hope you tell them no for now. Do a little bit more research, especially on the drainage. Water never went over the road before the subdivision was put in. And now the subdivision's there and it floods all the time. Flooded Christmas Eve. Water was over the road. And we didn't have that big of a rain, less than 2 inches. So they're going to send more water down. Their idea is already the pipe is too small. That's why it floods. It floods because of the subdivision. That property holds all that water. And so they need to continue to hold all that water, not to add a bigger pipe. and that is their plan, the way I understand it. So, and then they're going to add 600 cars, you know, or so. That's an awful lot of traffic for that area right there. And that is all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. A quick question to Ms. Martinez. Your address is 12200, correct? So
Yes, I am 12200, have been for 25 years.
so can we ask Scott?
That was the address that was put on the application, and so my planner processed it. That's just one on here. Ms. Martinez's property isn't being rezoned. The ordinances have the correct property and all that. This property, the 15 acres, is actually unaddressed. So typically in those situations, we would just do by like intersection, but the application had an address on it, and it just found its way onto this notice. But it is not her property, not being rezoned. We are adjacent, of course.
And I don't want it rezoned because I have a development agreement, a developmental agreement, and I don't want to pay y'all's taxes. Don't need you. Yes.
So I guess on our end, do we need to say something in our minutes that the 12200 is not correct?
No, you don't have to do anything in regards to that.
In the drawing is correct. The drawing leaves me out of it. I feel they need to do a little bit more homework and go to 911 addressing and get their own address. Not use mine because I might get rezoned.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. All right, that was the last public comment we had on agenda item number 1.
I had a.
Oh, go ahead.
Where is this one entrance located?
There's a slide in the site plan. There's 2 access points off Tower Road.
Just step on the front microphone.
Sorry. There's 2 access points off Tower Road. So you go to the plan.
There's a road that you brush up against on the backside.
Mm.
I can't tell what the name of it is, but okay, yes. So there is another road on the other side of the property. Are you going to be connecting into that road?
Ideally, we would negotiate an easement with the property owner to have fire access there, but the fire access would be restricted. There'd be a Knox box. Only the fire department would have the code there. We still need to discuss with the fire marshal too and understand what they're going to require. But we would do that, and then if that would be something they would require, then we would negotiate an easement. But it wouldn't be an in and out. It would just be an emergency exit for fire. But this is our plan right now to answer your question. So this is the road that right now our access points are here and here. There's potential fire too, but not far. And depending on our conversations, but if these fence being not boxed and so you know it's able to basically from fire some sort of like safety extra code. I think there's 2, right? Yeah, there's 2. 1 and 2.
Just to give some precedent, we have had other developments before that had a similar thing. And we did require them to have spoken to the fire people and done a little bit more diligence with the fire safety and came back to us after they met with the fire safety people and like made sure that that was a plan first. So it was a requirement that we had of other ones. We actually denied another one because they didn't they didn't do it. And then when they went back, the fire it was a road that they didn't really have access to, and the people were not going to let them use it as a secondary exit for fire, and so we denied that for that reason.
We did speak to the fire. Basically, what was being brought up, the fire marshal's fine with our 2 entrances as shown. We would just have to do additional fire safety measures within the buildings, more sprinkler system. If we got that secondary fire access only for emergency use, we could reduce what would be required within the building. So as this plan shows, the local fire department is okay with it and sees a path forward for development. I just want to make that clear that we did begin some coordination. Obviously, they'll approve the final plans. They've only looked at the conceptual drawing for now, but
And has Stonewater, because I believe that's Stonewater, right? Has Stonewater, have you met with them?
We haven't met with Stonewater, but the land that the easement would be across is controlled by the industrial owner, who we haven't met with either, but it's not controlled by the neighborhood. Also, to Ben's point, we can have these 2 access points. We just need I think it's called like a 13R or 14R sprinkler system in the buildings, which is a little more, it's pretty expensive. So we'd prefer to get the emergency exit there, but it's going to have 2 access points. Regardless, it just might cost us more money than we'd like.
And I know we going back to the TIA, I know it took place on like December 7th or early December. But I'm still thinking about the other projects in the area as well. So just curious if you all have factored the subdivision that's going across Tenajero. Then we have Palomino, which is going to be townhomes right there on Johnson Road that will dump out to 973. There's just a number of projects in the area, and I'm just curious if your TIA will also factor in those, if it's even possible, because those vehicles aren't currently on the road, but they still need to be factored in.
Absolutely. And part of the process, once we submit the traffic impact analysis to the city, part of the review process will be incorporating up and coming projects that the city is aware of and factoring that in for what the proposed mitigation would be. So the street light, for example, I believe there's another development to the west of 973 happening. So part of these improvements are contemplated to how do you alleviate traffic as a whole with all the various developments going on. So we may only have a snapshot of what our development is in the existing condition now, but through the review process and amendments to the TIA. So, the TIA version that we submit day one might look different from what finally gets approved after it factors in all those other items.
And for this particular project, how did y'all decide to pick this location?
That's a bad question. We had done some homework. We saw there was a previous zoning case proposed. We understood what the issues were with it. We felt we might be able to mitigate it. We researched the comprehensive plan. We saw it might be a fit for it, and there might be a chance to change the zoning to multifamily. We like the location. We like Manor. We think it's growing fast, and there's a lot of opportunity and population growth and job growth coming to the area, which are things we look for. We also like the access to the road system and to employment too. But we look at all sorts of different sites. We send out offers on all sorts of different sites, and this was one of the ones we got. But we like it for the reasons I mentioned.
What is your estimated time frame for the traffic analysis?
So the preliminary TIA has been prepared, and that's the information we're bringing forth here. The final TIA package that will be submitted, we have a development schedule I think we're planning on submitting within the next couple months, and that'd be that formal TIA applicant that we would obviously share with everyone on this board as well. We have most of the background information that we need. We just don't have the full completed report. we just have kind of a traffic memo at this point on what we anticipate.
I have one thing. Once you guys get all that information,
Yeah.
My child goes to that charter school. Would you guys be willing to come at 5:30 and 6 o'clock to that school and do another town hall meeting so you can see what the traffic looks like?
Yes.
That's one of the questions, close to one of the questions I was going to ask. What timeframes are the information that you have received? When has someone gone out to actually see, to gather that information that you have? Like what timeframes?
Yeah, good question. So, and Andy, you might be able to speak to that data more. So they do pick specific windows for AM and PM. If you want to.
So, with regards to when the turning counts were taken, I believe those were analyzed through either a full day or a few days, and then they use the numbers taken from those counts to and through standard practices, they estimate the average AM peak times and the average PM peak times. And so the counts were taken over a longer time frame. It wasn't somebody out there during a certain hour, but it should have been over a full day at least to be able to analyze that. And I believe it was over a few days. But as to the methodology of how the counts were taken, I would have to defer to our traffic engineer who's not here today.
And we could provide that information too. I
think
know
that
that's
something
important.
that we would be beneficial for us
sure.
to have because it would help us know exactly how you guys are getting that information,
Yeah.
especially because we know that area, right?
Definitely.
And so if this is something that will be established, we want to make sure that it is actually beneficial for the community, and traffic is one of the things that we have to make sure that's beneficial for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have all that backup data. Apologies for not having it here. Again, usually when we take our counts, it's over a large period of time where they're gathering their information, and then we try and extrapolate that data and understand peak trips, per hour for AM, PM. But yeah, we'll certainly provide all that.
If you get everything approved, how long does it take from start to finish for this project?
It's dependent on our financing is a lot of it, but we anticipate getting that in September of this year. We would start construction by December, and then it would take us 22 months to build. So it'd be October 2026 is when it would be complete.
All right, commissioners, we have any more questions? All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion?
Move to close the public hearing for agenda item number 1.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Chavis and a second by Commissioner Hardiman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to agenda item number 2, conduct a public hearing and rezoning application for Maynard Commons Phase 3, 1 lot on 0.98 acres, more or less, and being located at the northeast corner of US Highway 290 and FM 973, Maynard, Texas, from agriculture to a C1 light commercial. I don't have anybody to speak, Mr. Scott.
Sure. So this property, it's about 1 acre, and it's directly at the corner there of 299-73. I believe there's a fireworks stand on it right now. It's part of a larger 33-acre tract that the city council approved a development and tax incentive agreement on for a commercial shopping center. And part of that tax incentive agreement was that this 1 acre tract, that the property owner would request annexation and zoning. And they have done that. So the city council is considering the annexation, and this is the first public hearing on the zoning. And the zoning is the same zoning as the rest of the parcel as C1 light commercial.
Scott, do we have anyone here to speak on it?
No, but this one, well, one, I mean, this 1 acre tract is pretty much all floodplain, so it's not like this portion could be developed as part of the larger subdivision, and it is being done at essentially the request of the city. If it helps you all in decision making, the property owner is Barth Zimmerman. So it was on our community impact advisory committee. So he's the property owner and developer for this.
What if it, like, would it negatively impact anything if it stayed agricultural?
No, I mean, it would be a funny little parcel of ag there. The main impetus for the request for the annexation was just the state legislature, in the past legislative session, allows property owners that are in the ETJ to petition the city to be released, and cities don't really have much, direction to say no to that. Like, they're sort of obligated to unless they work out something with that property owner. And we can currently regulate signage in our ETJ, and so like we prohibit billboards in the city limits and in our ETJ. And I don't really anticipate the current property owner putting up a billboard, but this property may not be owned by them forever. And so if there were the instance that this was not annexed and remained in our ETJ, and then a property owner came in and said, I want to get out of ETJ, they can go put up a billboard there, a digital billboard. And so we sort of wanted it in the city because then we can regulate it, and it's, at least under current state statutes, more difficult to get disannexed from our city limits than it is ETJs. And I mean, even the state legislature is considered abolishing ETJs altogether. So that's the rationale behind why we wanted this 1 acre within the city limits. It wasn't necessarily to control development because, again, it's mostly floodplain. So the zoning, it makes a little more sense to have it all the same for the property, but again, it's not really developable, so the zoning of this 1 acre tract doesn't matter. But yes, we wanted it in the city to limit any potential signage issues that may have come up.
Would changing the zoning of this push the fireworks stand out?
Yes. So with it being annexed, so the zoning doesn't matter, but with it being annexed, fireworks stands are prohibited within the city limits. The development agreement does authorize the fireworks stand to remain through the end of this year, so they can get through. It does say December 31st, 2024, but we're not going to kick them out on New Year's Eve. But yeah, so in 2025, that fireworks stand would need to be removed.
Any more questions? Can I get a motion to close agenda item number 2?
Motion to close agenda item number 2.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Harden and second by Commissioner Leonard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, we pulled agenda item number 3, but we still do have some public comments. So, Mr. Robert.
If it got pulled, do comments.
No, but if they're still for 9 and 10, do we still do them?
No, the item's pulled, so there's no discussion on it.
Okay.
Why is that?
But,
If I may ask.
but hold on, Mr. Bataille. But if
Sure.
I have other people that want to speak for our regular agenda items 10 and 11, do they do it now or do they do it?
Those we're supposed to be at the beginning of the meeting under the public comments because that's for agenda and non-agenda related items.
Okay.
You can do them under the items for if you want, but typically, yeah, it's all under the beginning of the meeting.
Well, that's my fault. I'm sorry for that mix up. Can we go ahead and just do them now? Just get them done and out of the way.
It's up to you if you wanted to just bring back the
Alright.
public comment section and
Okay.
do all that.
I apologize everyone for that. We will go ahead and go to the public comment section. Sorry for that, Mr. Roberts.
Was that so later? Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I sent you all the emails anyway, so.
You don't want to speak, Mr.
Yeah, I do like it.
I'm ready for you.
Thank you very much. This is a very interesting and to me hard to imagine situation where a developer is building 95 townhomes next to a cemetery, and it seems like the city and the developer, neither one even remotely entertained the notion that there could be graves there. And as I've been exploring this, I felt it was horrible that we would lose that western sky with these townhomes 15 feet from the cemetery. And as I talked to it, Wayne Schneider had located something that in 1906, Martin McVeigh bought a piece of property next to this cemetery, half an acre. And here is a copy of the deed recorded in Travis County. And it says plainly here that the purpose is for a cemetery lot. Now, this is a picture of a lily patch about 4 foot by 6 foot that's just outside the fence. And for those of you who are knowledgeable about cemeteries, this is a black person's grave. Now, the Manor Cemetery was not integrated, believe it or not, until 2004. The civil rights movement, of course, was in the 60s. I think this is basically where the black people were buried for a little while in the early 1900s. And there was a bunch of trash at the south end of this area, and I filed a report. Mr. Dunlap didn't seem to care much about it and closed the matter. I said, this matter's not closed until the trash is gone. I filed a second code enforcement thing. And strangely enough, I had hoped to find out who ordered the cleanup there. It's been there 10 years of total junk and porta potties and things, 10 years. I wonder who ordered that cleanup. I also wonder who paid for that. That should have been paid for by the developer. If the city of Manor paid for that, or if Cap Metro was doing some work in that area too, we need to be reimbursed by the developer for that cleanup. But that cleanup was a desecration of what I think is a cemetery area. You don't clean up a cemetery with a bulldozer. So I also sent the police copies of these laws from the Texas Historical Commission. It's against the law to desecrate a cemetery. The bottom line is here, how in heck can we not do a ground penetrating radar assessment of that area beside the cemetery? You can rent those machines for like $350 a day. So for under $2,000, we can know for certain if there's graves there. The fact that the city's too cheap to do it, the fact that the developer hasn't done it yet is just totally hard to imagine. So I think we should put a moratorium on that until we have assessed that area. And then we talk about losing the western sky. But for the moment, it's against the law. This is state laws. I've given the police detectives these sheets. What is with our detectives? They can't even read what I give them. They said there's no crime there. So in other words, for me to get this enforced, I have to go to the city and then they shine us on. Then I have to go to Travis County. I think they may stick up for us. They have part of their codes. If a cemetery is over 50 years old, they have some money supposedly they can spend. I didn't think I would have to do that. If they don't do anything, then they have to go to the state. If the state does nothing, they have to go to the federal government. But there are laws at every stage of this. So I'm just flummoxed that the city of Manor has just got their head in the sand over something that's so obvious. They do a Black History proclamation, but they don't even try to protect the graves. And here we are, we're doing nothing for MLK Day. That really surprised me. The cemetery, the history, it's also in a historic district. Our people, they can't even read the definition of a historic district. There's nothing historic about 95 3-story and 2-story townhomes. There's nothing historic. I think Scott Dunlap never told the developer that this is a historic district. And if they want to sue the city, I'll help them, because basically we defrauded and deceived these developers. And that's not right. Our history is the only thing we have. Other than that, it's a convenience stores and subdivisions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you letting me.
Next up, we got Mr. Barry Franklin. That you wish to speak on. Then.
Barry Franklin, I've been a resident of Manor since 2005 there. I have a business, A Life Celebration by Franklin, specializing in end of life. Kind of know what he's saying. I think I buried that person when they first started integrating Manor Cemetery there. But I want to put at the 800 Lexington funeral planning place, not to have services there. No intense thing, just I meet with families. It can be anywhere from 1 to 5 people there. And that's basically what I want to do on 800 Lexington here in Manor there, and provide that and plan for cremations. About 97% of my business goes to a church or goes straight to the cemetery there. So, short and quick, because your clock is 30 minutes behind.
Thank you for that, Mr. Franklin. Next up, we have Mr. Dwight Hill.
Happy New Year to all you guys and ladies. In reference to Mr. Franklin, we want to expound on 800 Lexington as well. This is to combine the lots. It has actually it's kind of chopped up between 5 lots. We want to combine that particular lot into one. That's one thing they want to do for futuristic business needs. Any questions on that? So we want to go from 5 lots to 1. I already talked to Scott about that. Got some feedback on that in relation to it. So we want to get that taken care of as possible. Any questions?
No, not at this time, Mr. Hill.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Sorry about that delay for you, Mr. Hill.
Oh, that's fine.
All right. Last but not least, Mr. Jordan Gozy. Okay. All right. All right. Sorry about that. Now we will. Now we are back on track to consent agenda items. All the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by Planning and Zoning Commission and will be entered with one motion. There will be no separate discussions on these items unless requested by a chairperson or a commissioner member, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Consent agenda item number 4, consider and discussion possible action to approve the minutes for December 13, 2023, Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Leonard, second by Commissioner Neela. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Moving on. Regular agenda items, we have already covered 5 and 6. We are moving on to consent, regular agenda item. Consider discussion and possible actions on rezoning for the Dominion Development 1 lot on 15.42 acres more or less and being located on at 12200 Tower Road, Maynard, Texas, from N1 light industrial to MF-2 multifamily.
I move to put this on hold until we have more information from the developers.
Well, sorry, what information specifically so they can respond?
The traffic, well, I can't have the more information as far as like the time frames as well as to, just more information on, the entrances as well too.
Does that motion include the fire, like talking to the like talking to this commercial person about the fire entry as well?
And I'd also like to request more research for like property drainage, making sure that we are exploring the best options to mitigate that. Especially with one of the neighboring property owners being present and can speak more to that of how the flooding is actually created, that how it's presented currently may not be the best solution. So just making sure that we do explore that, and also get the correct property address for this project.
And I know it's going to take a couple of months, as you stated, for the traffic analysis, but as much information that you can possibly give, that would be very informative for us.
And also, I think talk to the school, right?
So, Mr. Scott, do we just?
It was seconded. Sorry.
Mm.
If anyone wanted to second it with those recommendations, you can just second it as recommended, and then you can vote.
And I second to postpone agenda item number 7 with the research and recommendations brought forth by the board.
Sorry, one quick question. Did you have a date certain to postpone to like next or no date?
Can I ask a question to them? Okay. When do you feel as though you would have more information? What's a time frame for you?
I believe the next planning and zoning meeting is February 7th, correct?
It's actually February 13th.
Okay, we'd like to come back on February 13th. Thank you.
Also add to look into the gated entry.
Yes, we will do that.
So I motion to postpone this item until the next meeting on February 13th.
And I second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Samaro and a second from Commissioner Hardeman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Moving on to agenda item number 8. Consider discussion and passable action and rezoning application for Maynard Common Phase 3, 1 lot on 0.98 acres, more or less, and being located at the northeast corner of US Highway 290 and FM 973 Maynard, Texas, from agriculture to C1 light commercial.
I hate fireworks. They pop them off all the time. I don't want the fireworks to be less fireworks, the better. Scares my dog, scares my husband, PTSD.
I think they've already moved it, right, Scott?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think they have, driving by there. I think it's already gone. Yeah. I guess it's tough because it's like, just like these gentlemen that left the traffic, that right there is the headache of our city.
So again, I mean, this is all floodplain. I mean, it's not all of the rest of it is already zoned and planned to be developed. So
I move to approve agenda item number 8.
A second.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Leonard, a second by Commissioner Hardiman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on. Agenda item number 9. Oh, this one was moved. Moving to number 10. Consider discussion and possible action on preliminary plat for the New Haven subdivision, 293 on 90.3 acres, more or less, and being located at Gray Lane and FM 973, Maynard, Texas. Commissioners, I do believe we have Mr. John Alvarez is here to speak if we have any questions.
So if you like me to provide some information or not, okay. This was on our last commission meeting, and it was postponed for the request to have more information on their park improvements. So it was added to the back of their construction plans for their parks and landscaping, as well as their PUD that was approved, which provides some more information on what their parks and amenities are. And if you may recall, when their PUD was being approved, the parkland that was being dedicated wasn't consistent with our subdivision ordinance. So while they are dedicating land and doing improvements and the regional trail, they are still paying the full fee in lieu for our parkland dedication, which at the time that we're working on this, it's $550 per dwelling unit. It's gone up since then, but they are also paying into our park fund. And part of your backup now is their parks plans, and it is long. It was the whole thing. It's about 78 pages because it covers the whole subdivision. But if you have additional questions for me, I can answer them. Or as mentioned, the developer, they're here to answer questions as well.
This is the division, the property that is adjacent to the cemetery. Is this correct?
No, that's the Junction project. That was the one that was pulled. This is New Haven. So this is next to and behind the senior high school on Greg Lane.
Oh, okay.
Is this the one where there was discussion last month that the park and the placement of the park being in the back of the property was like they were going to look at what it would take to move the park in the front because there was like crime concerns about having it sort of in the back? Is that this one?
Yes and no. Commissioner Meyer, I believe, did mention that wasn't preferred, but it is what was approved on the PUD. And so the concept plan that was approved and this preliminary plan that's submitted is consistent with their PUD. So they are meeting their zoning requirements with how their parks are designed and the amenities they're placing.
I guess I'd like to ask is, are you willing to move the parks? Like, is there flexibility to move that space to, maybe more in the middle or more up at the front, just to alleviate any concerns that might be had about crime being committed kind of back in the back of the property?
Just state your name.
Sure. My name is John Alvarez. I'm with Quiddity Engineering. I'm actually the project manager and engineer for the track. Just to be clear, not the developer. Developer is here today. So there are actually, excuse me, 2 parks on this tract. I don't know if we can zoom in a little bit, but the park that is in the back, I believe Park B, the reason we've selected that placement for it and why we went through and worked with city staff and city council on the placement is that area there's a lot of topography. There's a lot of nice winding areas that we can plant trees and different things and provide some pavilions and benches and, I guess views for the Wilbarger Creek and things like that there. So I believe that's more of what went into the selection of that park. So I think right now our preference would be to leave the park where it is based on the approved PUD.
If I may too, again, this is the park because of the topography and the size. That's why it didn't meet our subdivision code, which is why they have to pay the fee in lieu. So moving the park probably would require, updating the PUD and concept plan and redoing the prelim plat, which is the process like they can do. But it also would probably shift, from having potentially the parkland that doesn't qualify and us getting paid or funds going into the park fund, to potentially having a park that did qualify and then the fee wouldn't be there, and it would sort of change what the PUD would be. They have to do a whole PUD update. So as Mr. Alvarez mentioned, like this is what was approved with the PUD through the commission and council.
Any more questions, commissioners? Thank you, Mr. John.
Of course. Thank you.
I apologize. One additional thing. There's an easement that the city requested, a wastewater easement, that's still being finalized. It just provides wastewater service to an adjacent property. And where it's located works. We just have to make sure that that the other utilities that are planned on the construction plans, like water lines and the wastewater line where the manhole is going to be, that all gets, coordinated as well. So the adjacent property owner, when they want to develop or whatever, that they can just install their wastewater line through the easement. And easements are part of a preliminary plat. And so since it's just being finalized, we were just requesting that if you were inclined to approve it, that it would just be approved on the condition that there was an easement that how do I word it? Yeah, you got it. A final easement being approved by the city engineer.
Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve agenda item number 10 with the condition of the final easement approved by the city manager, or sorry, city engineer.
I have a motion by Mr. Neela, a second by Commissioner Leonard. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 11, consider discussion and possible action on a joined lot affiliated for lot 1 through 5, block 12, town of Maynard, locally now known as 800 North Lexington Street, Maynard, Texas. Scott.
Sure. So this property or this item was on the last agenda, and it was requested to be postponed. So there could be some representatives here for it, and they are here tonight. So you can ask them more questions. I know they spoke earlier, but you're free to bring them up again for additional questioning if you like. We've done joint lot affidavits before. They're fairly common here in the older part of town. Most of the lots here in town, they're 50 by 115. Which is smaller than our standard subdivision code for most of our zoning types. And so to help with the development here in the older part of town, we have a process within our code that property owners can make requests to the planning commission to join their lots together through this affidavit that we record in the public records, which is typically faster and it's free for property owners. Otherwise, they would have to go through the subdivision process to create their one lot. And what this does is, so for this one instance, it's 5 properties. So there's technically setback lines in between the whole thing. And obviously there's a house on it now, or there's an existing home that was built prior to sort of the current regulations we have. But under the current regulations, we would look at those setback lines all throughout the middle of the property and kind of say you can't build across property lines. And so again, that's this. We have this joint lot affidavit process. So property owners here can combine their lots to create more developable space because their lots are a little smaller. And so that's what this property owner here is selecting to do, is to combine the properties so they can make this as one larger lot for the purposes of building, so they can fully utilize their property for potential business.
And I think we asked the question last time, for this kind of size of property, what would be the parking spaces for it?
Once again, Dwight Hill, project manager, facility manager for 800 Lexington. According to the city code, and I also conferred with Mr. Scott, the type of business that it all depends on the type of business that's being integrated into that particular location. And in this instance, it's we're going to be having a funeral home, not exactly a funeral home, but it's going to be more for administrative uses. So already I submitted plans to all of you guys, which y'all should have. I think Scott will make y'all copies. Those particular plans indicate the particular parking spaces that's indicated on those drawings. So the particular spaces that's needed, I think, is between 1 and 100. Is that correct?
So if the designation is funeral services, it's 1 to 150.
1 to 150?
Yes.
Okay. But is that for a non-intense use?
That's for anything that's classified under, I'd have to look at the definition for what funeral services is.
Correct.
I know in our discussion, you said the use may not technically be that. It's more of a office use, but we'd have to look into that. That's kind of on the administrative side of it. but yeah, under funeral services, it's 1 to 150, which it would be about 12 and change for parking, which rounds up to 13. And then you could do up to like 150% of that, which gets you to like 19 or 20 spaces.
And that's one of the reasons why we want to combine those 5 lots just in case we need to expand. But right now we have on the plans, I believe 6, enough for 88 parking and walkways leading up to the facility.
So, Mr. Hill, just so I'm correct, this is a admin building or a actual, like, I wouldn't say a funeral home, but like a viewing service area.
Right. So, a life celebration by Franklin, Mr. Franklin, he already has a funeral home in Taylor, which does the embalming and all that thing. This just for family viewing. But 95% of this particular space will be utilized for administration, like visiting families, making preparations, planning. The city of Mena doesn't have anything like that. So this will be the first of its kind. And that's one of the reasons why Mr. Dunlap has to research or get more information on that. But we're doing everything that we can do in relation to the city code in order to bring it up to date, because we're the first individual that's bringing that particular facility up to code.
So you will host funerals or not? Just curious.
Mr. Franklin, you want to further expound on that? And this is Mr. Franklin, the owner.
If it were to be something small, nothing more than 15 people coming, because anything large, we'll go to a church. Right now they're starting to do services at golf courses and all that stuff there. But no, nothing large there, because COVID is coming up and I'm scared of it.
I think that was our concern, right? Was that like how many people could actually attend a funeral, and it's in the middle of town, like very small roads, mostly houses around there. So it was very hard to imagine how, you could have a funeral service with a lot of people. But if it's more of an administrative use, it's more of a like preparation, that kind of stuff.
No preparation now. All the preparation is done in Taylor, Texas. All the embalming, all the receiving, all the dressing, and all the casketing there. All that's done in Taylor. Most of the time there, it would be there to me, because most of my clientele, I was at Austin for like 45 years. And my clientele left Austin because of how high it is, and they're over in Mena. They're over in Elgin, Pflugerville, Georgetown, Liberty Hill there. And so by being close to the highway, it's easy to serve them that way there.
So meeting with the families, discussing the preparations, deciding.
But putting arrangements together, be it cremation or a funeral service there. And also pre-needed. Some folks want to come and put it together there, put pre-arrangements. Now, can I say, most of the time when I meet, it's always between 1 to 5 people that come. Because when I discuss, I'm looking for money, and those they running from having to pay. So I don't have that problem with a bunch of people coming to make, because the first thing I ask is, whose name should I put on the contract? And then that clears the room.
Yeah, Mr. Franklin, I think when we met with this last time, we did have couple of community members who were worried, and that was the big thing.
Yeah, we know.
The parking and, the location and being that, but, and I think that's one thing that I brought up is when you have a large family, and I know you have some large families you had to do, but you already know that wouldn't fit there. Yeah. So
most of the time I go rent a church, and the church that I'm in favor with is right off of Decker, New Hope Missionary Baptist Church. There are 5, and the majority of my services go there, or they go to Grant AME Worship Center off of Kramer, because they seat 1,500 there. Then I go to St. James, but they raised their price, so folks are running from that new price that they have to rent there for a service.
Any more questions, Commissioner?
No. Clarification. On the drawings, it's 1 to 300 for the parking. So you currently have 5 spaces, 1 ADA. Scott, you had said something about 1 to 150.
Yes, so if it does classify as funeral services, it's 1 to 150. Mhm.
But once again, that's based on if that facility is being utilized for an intensive use, like major, we're not doing that.
So unless there's
So
some change up in the current classification as funeral services, some delineation on intensive use versus non,
correct.
then that would kind of have some difference in 1 to 150 or 1 to 300 as in the drawing states.
Correct.
Is there something currently in the documents that is the case?
Well, this particular location had service almost 4 other businesses for years. None of those businesses had a certificate of occupancy or had uh, or was required to do the changes that we're making right now. So we're because of those neighbors that had those concerns, we're the first one that's trying to be in compliance with the city ordinances and trying to do things the right way. So my question, saying to Mr. Dunlap was, while we're required to make these changes, which is part of the city, I understand, but why haven't those other individuals did those changes before us, before we even got there? And they was in there, and the response from Mr. Scott that he responded said, well, I can understand some things slip through the cracks, but it's going to cost a little money for Mr. Franklin to even get that at the property up to code, and which we're doing now. We did everything that they asked so far. So I'll be working with Mr. Scott and my subcontractors to get everything that's needed, to get that up to speed. But once again, it's not for an intensive use, it's for a non-intensive use.
There will not be no 300 people coming in there.
Exactly.
Not even 50, really.
They won't be 50 because if you look at, I'm pretty sure you guys had loved ones that passed away, and if you have a big facility, then Mr. Franklin, he would make the preparations for a bigger facility. Only thing we want to do at that location is paperwork, administrative. Sometimes this with family that requires 1 to 5 people, like you said, and that's it.
I have one quick question.
Okay.
I know you guys have already said it. Mr. Franklin is going to have to put some money in restoring that old home. How much are you going to try to change it? Or are you going to try to leave it somewhat what it is?
We're not gonna. We already had to place a new roof on it probably a couple months ago. We're doing some internal painting, changing stuff like that. I put if y'all pass by there, you see that brand new porch. Because I mean, once upon a time it was like sunken in. We're gonna be putting a couple of doors in. All of that, the changes are in the plan. So if y'all want to look at those plans or have any questions in relation to what you have right here, you can see that on that side where the blue bonnet is located, we'll be putting in a 48-inch door, and that's just for your oversized casks that we have. And then we'll be putting those ramps, anything that's in relation to the ADA. But all the other construction will be on the inside, which is the restroom, making that ADA compliance.
I'm curious for the comprehensive plan in our downtown, because this is technically downtown, right? Okay. So we have a big initiative to kind of imagine what our downtown looks like and to grow it into more of a, I'd say, a commercial hub, right? So does this plan align with the comprehensive plan?
It does for the zoning. I mean, with it being zoned currently neighborhood business, that's pretty much what the comp plan says for Lexington, north of Eggleston. Having Lexington be a mix of, small office, retail, residential uses that are compatible with, adjacent, single family and residential behind them that are off the ones that front on Lexington. That was why this property was so neighborhood business years ago. Because initially it was going to be a daycare, which didn't open because they didn't want to do the site improvements. And then it was going to be an architect who submitted this site plan,
Right.
but it didn't follow through. We were going to pull the water meter, so we were working with the properties to get them into compliance. But yes, it's as a commercial use. That's more in line with the comp plan than if this was still a residential home.
And we already, like I said, did some of those changes Mr. Scott, the city was requiring. Like capping off the gas caps because there's no gas that's going through the facility, putting in the ADA signage for the guests that do come in. And now, once we get the building permit and the necessary permits, we'll start doing the construction for the inside for the ADA bathroom, and that's it. So it's not anything that's major. We won't be having any. You won't be having any 500 bodies or hearses over there, you know, saying scan everybody. But yeah, that's not what we're doing. It's just more administrative than anything.
All right. We can get back. We can get back to the parking. Make sure, according to the NB ordinance, that it's all in line. To my knowledge, I'm not, aware of any intensive or non-intensive portions that may apply, and so we just need to get all that straight because prior to whatever happened yesterday and what's going to happen today, when it's tomorrow, it's going to be still yesterday. So we need to make sure that you continually and doing all your due diligence, project managing, doing construction, and then I think everything will be else good to go on that piece.
And just the input. I'm sorry to interject, sir. Mr. Chavez, we gotten with the fire chief, and I'll be getting with Bill, so he can go over those plans as well. You know, saying to make sure that we have the necessary parking, that's needed in relation to that. We're digitally working on, getting all this property up to code so we can go ahead and start actually doing some official business there.
All right. Thank you for that.
Okay.
I had a quick question. You mentioned the doors that you were going to make them a certain size so that caskets could come in.
Okay.
Is that for the small viewings
Yes,
that you
ma'am.
would be having?
Yes, ma'am. It'd be onesie, twosies, people coming in,
Okay.
seeing their families leaving.
And will you have a hearse parked there in those instances?
To bring it there.
To bring, yes.
Unfortunately, sometimes the average casket is 24 inches, but sometimes people eat real good and die. And so I've had to get a casket that was 48 inches wide there. So we have to use that to bring it. The biggest one I've ever had was like about 60 inches. We had to use a flat truck to do that there. So,
Do you currently have an idea of the estimated number of viewings like that you would have per month?
per month, the big size? No, we don't.
Just like the viewings, like if you had to say
Viewings there?
right now, like the small ones that you would possibly be having there, do you know the number of like the average number of viewings that are that small that you would have there?
Right now, what we do require is that the family go to Taylor, because if it's any changes, all the changes is done on the bodies in Taylor there. So, like I said, mostly administration. Only time I might bring someone there is someone elderly that just can't go out or don't want to travel away from this area here. There. So that might be maybe 2 a month, 2 or 3.
Thank you.
And also, to further expound on Mr. Franklin, that's one of the reasons why we put that 48-inch door on that side by Blue Bonnet to kind of shield, because I know people don't like, they get kind of creepy. You're like, oh, what's that, the Addams Family or what, So we kind of took that into consideration and put that door on that side, the side of Blue Bonnet, and that'll be real quick. It's not going to be any hearses parked there 24 hours a day or anything like that. Once again, strictly administrative usage.
Thank you.
Any more questions, commissioners? Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Thank you,
Mr. Franklin. We have a motion
I move that we approve agenda item 11.
No, second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Neela, a second by Commissioner Vice Chair Chavis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm for it. Sorry, I forgot to say aye.
All right, motion passes. All right, I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:31.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.